Right. Fantastic. So exciting with the prizes, right? Our 10,000 donor prize is My Breast Cancer Supports, and the Show Your Spirit prize, Wyndham Endowment for Community Advancement. That's so great. Each of those nonprofits get an additional $250. And every time you give, the nonprofit you give to is entered into a contest to win another prize. So keep giving, everybody. Okay. All right. So now I am so pleased to welcome three terrific leaders in our nonprofit community to help us reflect on the year that we have had. Or has it been a year and a half? I have no sense of time anymore due to COVID, but and really talk about some of the challenges that their organization faced, but also the silver linings that came out of it. Our nonprofit community were on the front lines, in the background, even if you didn't see them, really making sure that services were delivered despite everything that was going on. And in many cases, those services had to increase. In many cases, the revenue for organizations disappeared. In many cases, nonprofits had to do a complete pivot, just like many other businesses, about how to deliver the services that were so needed. So that's what we're here to reflect upon today. So it's my pleasure to introduce our three silver lining heroes. That's what I'm going to call you to you. So we have Patrice Baker from Greater Seacoast Community Health, Tim Horgan from the World Affairs Council of New Hampshire. Oh, I like the waves. That's nice. And Jessica Gorin from New Hampshire Hunger Solutions. Thank you all so much for being with us. I appreciate it. So we're going to start with Patrice. So Patrice, if you could just tell us about what Greater Seacoast Community Health does and what you do at the organization.
Sure, thanks. So Greater Seacoast Community Health is a network of nonprofit community health centers that includes Goodwin Community Health in Somersworth, Families First Health and Support Center in Portsmouth, and Lilac City Pediatrics in Rochester. And our mission is to deliver compassionate, integrated health services and supports that are accessible to all people in our community, regardless of their ability to pay. So beyond primary care, medical health, we provide behavioral health for kids and adults, prenatal health and women's health, dental health, substance use disorder treatment services, pediatrics. We have a family center that offers family support and family programming, mobile health program, a pharmacy, and then lots of other wraparound services. So our goal is to really help boost sort of health, happiness, and hope in our communities.
Health, happiness, and hope. Boy, that's a good triple H. I'll tell you. It's better than heat, humidity, and whatever the third.
Hazy, hot, and humid, right?
Yeah, hazy, hot, and humid. That's better. Yeah, but that's great. And what do you do, Patrice?
Oh, right. So I'm the parent education manager. So I work in the Family Resource Center, and we do parent programming and family supports at a few different sites. At Families First, we have programming in Portsmouth and Somersworth. We have off-site locations in Epping and Exeter where we run play groups. And then we have home visiting programs where our home visitors go meet with people in their homes one-on-one and provide support that way.
Wow. Fantastic. Very, very vast array of services.
Mm-hmm.
That's terrific. Okay, let's move to Tim. And Tim, same question for you for the World Affairs Council of New Hampshire. Tell us, what you do with your organization and what is the World Affairs Council of New Hampshire?
Sure. Well, thank you first to the Center for Nonprofits for this wonderful opportunity. We really are appreciative of New Hampshire Gives and what it means for the general wider nonprofit network. The World Affairs Council of New Hampshire is an educational organization dedicated to helping people better understand complex global issues. We do this through a number of initiatives, including speakers programs, Global in the Granite State podcast, an international visitor exchange program with the U.S. Department of State, and some high school education programs as well. We really want people to know and understand what is going on around the world in order to be better global citizens and be able to actively engage in this global community that we find ourselves in. As I keep telling people, and the pandemic has definitely shown us, the world is not going away, even if we want it to. It is here to stay. So it is in all of our interests in order to understand what is going on. So I'm the executive director. I've been with the organization for about 12 years, having actually started off as an AmeriCorps member and working my way up the ladder there. So it's been a wonderful organization to work for, and we really appreciate opportunities like this to get the word out about what we're doing.
Yeah, that's great. So Tim, that global perspective, right? It just touches every aspect of life today, where it really didn't, just 30 years ago. So I think it's fantastic to have an organization that is all about bringing understanding about living in a global world, and that we all have a place, even though we're right here in New Hampshire, we're still global. So it's great.
Yeah, I would just add that, it's tough these days to know where to turn to find reliable information with all of the different disinformation flying around out there. And we really hope that we can provide the opportunity for people to hear from experts, to hear from people with the lived experiences in these countries in order to better understand what is really happening, and removing those filters and those opportunities to be misled.
Yeah. A lot of preconceived notions out there, right?
Exactly.
So yeah, that's wonderful, Tim. All right, let's move to Jessica. So Jessica, same question. Tell us what you do at New Hampshire Hunger Solutions, and tell us, what is New Hampshire Hunger Solutions and what do you do?
Yeah, thank you, Janine. So New Hampshire Hunger Solutions is a statewide advocacy organization that's working to address the root cause issues of hunger in New Hampshire. And we're working to remove the barriers to nutrition support programs like school meals, WIC, and SNAP and EBT. Wow. I was just recently hired as the deputy director back in April. However, I've been working with New Hampshire Hunger Solutions as a consultant for about 3 years. Most of my job is improving school meal participation. And I know I'll talk more about that in the silver linings portion of this event. But yes, it's really been rewarding to be able to help, feed more children. And a lot of it is through collaboration. So I am a networker by trade and just kind of naturally. And I like to connect people together when there's a resource and a need. And a lot of the work that we're doing is just, connecting people together so they can talk and figure out how to feed more kids.
That's fantastic. That especially this past year, right? What a challenge it has been to be able to reach the people who needed it the most, the kids who needed it the most, because they weren't in their traditional settings. So I don't mean to take away your, I'm sure you'll have much more to say about this, but just my own observations. So that's great. And I love what you said, Jessica, about being a natural connector. I think that's a thread that runs through our nonprofit world, that the people and our organizations are connected to each other, and that there is not a competition, not an environment of competition, but rather an environment of cooperation. And that is so special. And I can just see that with all three of you. And I think that's just great. It just occurs to me that I don't think I introduced myself at the beginning of the segment. So I'm just going to take a minute to do that. And sorry if I did and I can't remember. But anyway, my name is Janine Tuzigna, and I am president of Janine & Company, which is a nonprofit. Well, I'm not a nonprofit, but I work with nonprofits as a consultant and help them to be strong through leadership and empowerment. So that's the goal of Janine & Company. And then the other role that is very near and dear to my heart is that I am a board member for the New Hampshire Center for Nonprofits. So anyway, that's me. But enough about me. We're going to get back to these fabulous organizations. So let's go back to Patrice. Patrice, I'm wondering if you could tell us about some of the challenges that your organization faced during the pandemic and how you were able to get some silver linings out of those.
Well, I mean, I remember sitting in a room right before I was ready to teach a parenting class, and we were in about week 9 of 12 weeks. And one of our directors of our organization came in and explained to me that this would be the last class, that we were shutting down all in-person groups starting the next day. So it all happened so suddenly. That was just for like the parent education programs, but all of the, having to do that really quick pivot for people's medical care to switch from in-person visits to telehealth and behavioral health through telehealth. And it was just, it's so critical for people's health, and we had to make that switch very quickly. So that was just a huge challenge. But did you want me to talk about some silver linings that we're thinking about too?
Yeah.
So
and tie that back.
I think one thing is this pandemic really magnified the importance of community health in general, and then specifically community health centers, because we really learned that we all are healthier when everybody can have access to care, and that our community, we need to work together to keep all of us safe. So I think community health really had kind of a spotlight shined on it. And then we were able to provide COVID-19 testing, and our public health network coordinated vaccine distribution and staffing vaccine clinics. So we really were right there in it and providing some important services for communities. Another great silver lining is that it just inspired us to really think about how else we can reach patients and families and clients and deliver services. So I have to say, in the parent education side of things, we are all kind of like, how did we not think of this before? Doing parenting groups on Zoom turned out to be a wonderful thing. It increased access for people that would not have been able to get to our center. Transportation is such a problem in New Hampshire. We don't have great public transportation. So people came to our, one woman was at a parenting group from a rehab hospital. From her hospital, she was able to join this group and had this wonderful connection for 12 weeks with a whole group of parents. And we, worked together and learned together. And, that's just one example. But really, this idea of reaching people through, technology is something I think that's definitely here to stay. And it created access for people that didn't have access. So it was a great lesson that way. And I think one other small silver lining that came to mind was, this is sort of more internal, but we have frontline workers at our community health centers who needed to show up every day, or our patients would not have caregivers. And those people had kids who were at home needing to be on school all day, young kids. So we were able to set up a learning center in our organization for our frontline workers. And it was such a wonderful opportunity to be able to care for them and to sort of support people in realizing that you're not in this alone. Our organization is here for you. And we set this up within a few weeks, and we were able to host online learning for kids for months. They came to our center every day, and we had staffing to, supervise their online things. So that was kind of a nice thing for our organization. But I think just, community health is something that we're all aware of now, the importance of that. And, we learned a lot of important lessons. So.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like you really took advantage of those silver linings internally and externally, right? And
Yep.
That's what an incredible thing to be able to say, that, you're able to, take care of your staff and take care of their own families, where your mission is to take care of other people's families.
Right.
So it's really, that's remarkable. That is really fantastic. I like the funnel effect of that silver lining story. That's really great. Thank you so much, Patrice.
You're welcome.
Let's move on to Tim. And, Tim, so tell us about, you're all about being at World Affairs Council, about, people coming together, right? So, so what happened, and how did you adapt and what were the good things that came out of it?
Yeah, so for us, building connections, building community is so very important to our work. And the best way we can do that is by being in person. So all of our speakers programs have been in person in the past. Our international exchanges, how do you do an international exchange without bringing people to the country? And in the middle of a pandemic, that's not at all possible. So we had to really rethink a lot of our models, a lot of our ways to work. When the pandemic first hit, we had a academic World Quest program set up for high school students to come and compete for a national competition down in DC. And that was scheduled for March 15th. So right before the pandemic hit. And we unfortunately weren't able to host it, but we were able to this year reimagine that program into an online opportunity for students to compete. And as with many of our other programs, it really opened up the opportunity to collaborate with people from across the state and across the country even. So for the Academic World Quest, we brought together teams from 9 different states. We had over 120 students competing in our regional competition. And they had a great time. They got to meet each other, talk to each other. And that's something that never would have happened if we had remained fully in person. Same with our speakers programs. We went from a organization that was very much focused on Southern New Hampshire, the Manchester corridor, out to the seacoast. But by bringing our programs online, we were able to engage a much wider audience. We increased the viewership of our programs by over 120%. We saw people from over 26 different countries and even 26 states and over 45 countries participate in our program. So we went from a very local sort of organization to one that truly is now a global organization. And that's something that we hope to continue with our online programs. Even when we go back to in-person, we want to continue to provide fully virtual as well as hybrid programs so that people can continue to engage and get this vital information. And then for our international visitor exchanges, we were in a fortunate spot in that we had previously done a little bit of virtual exchanges in the past. We had tested some things out, so we had a bit of a head start on our partner sister agencies throughout the country. But being able to bring these people to New Hampshire in a new and different way, it really opened up actually to a lot of people who would not have the opportunity to visit the state in the past. People from countries where the State Department only allocates 1 or 2 slots per year. They now have the opportunity to send 20, 30, 40, 50 people on these programs because of the virtual aspect. And again, we are hoping to be able to continue to bring some virtual aspects, take the positives of what we've learned throughout this process and integrate them back into our in-person programming once we are able to do that and it's deemed safe again. So really for us, it has been a challenging experience, of course, but something that our staff has really risen to the challenge of and reimagining these programs in order to continue to do the good work that we've been doing for almost 70 years now, just in a new way and a new format. And the ultimate silver lining is that this really opens it up to a lot of people who may not have, even here in New Hampshire, thought of attending one of our events before. As was mentioned before, it's hard to find public transportation sometimes. So being able to zoom in at the time of the event or even watch the recording, people are able to engage in their own way on their own time. And so it really opens up to a much wider and diverse audience than what we had before.
Mm-hmm. That's fantastic. What a way to take technology and really use it to your advantage and to continue to use it to your advantage. I mean, that's remarkable. And as you said earlier, understanding on a global scale starts with every individual. And so to be able to create those personalized opportunities, even in group settings, is just, I commend you. That's really, really wonderful. Thank you so much, Tim. That's
Thank
great.
you.
Jessica, let's wrap up the conversation with you at New Hampshire Hunger Solutions. Again, I can only imagine the challenges that your organization faced, and then what were some of the good silver lining things that came out of all that?
Yeah, so I mean, we ended our last part of the conversation talking about networks, and I just want to take this minute to thank all of the social service and healthcare organizations out there that really stepped up to the plate to feed children and people, our more vulnerable populations like seniors, and getting meals to people where they were at. It was amazing to see everybody come together. So thank you to all of New Hampshire Hunger Solutions partners out there, because we wouldn't have been able to feed as many kids without you. But that was our challenge. Our challenge was to connect children and families to the food and nutrition that they needed during the pandemic. It was, figuring out how to advocate and get SNAP and EBT available online so people could shop at home safely and get food delivered to them. It was making sure that with universal meals in place, so that's the one silver lining, right? One of ours. Universal meals came in place, which meant that the federal government put waivers to make school meals free for all children under the age of 18. They released a bunch of waivers that allowed families to be able to pick up those meals and pick up 2 or 3 meals at a time. Sometimes they would pick up meals for a whole week. Some schools did groceries, so families could just pick up groceries for the whole week, and it was covered under their school meals. So there was a lot of really creative ways that the community came together to get those universal meals out to as many kids as possible. But it was a challenge because we had to get the word out about, where are the meals? How do you pick them up? How do families pick them up when they're trying to work and homeschool children and do all those things that everybody on this, call is already talked about. So those were some of the things that were challenges, but also silver linings. Free and reduced meal applications are burdensome. They become a barrier. There's language barriers with filling them out. There's a lot of things that come along with that. So that universal meal waiver was a huge silver lining for feeding children and being able to get those meals out to them. So we're hoping that we can see the benefits of those universal meals in place and get the federal government, because we're an advocacy organization too. So getting the federal government to keep those policies in place and make them more permanent. And because universal meals became about, when schools went back in person, or the schools that were in person, they did breakfast in the classroom. And that's a best practice model that we know feeds the most children. Also for middle and high schools, it's a grab and go second chance breakfast where they can eat between 8:30 and 9:30 in the morning. So schools that were implementing those saw huge increases in their breakfast participation and in their reimbursements, which means more money for more quality, healthy food to go into children's bellies. Also means that kids weren't hungry. I just heard from a school nurse the other day that she gets 25 hunger visits a day in her office. So with these in place, she's able to work with the school food service director to get those children a meal so that they have something and that the food isn't coming out of the school nurse's pocket. So this is, another really huge silver lining is getting as many kids fed as possible, doing breakfast in the classroom, doing grab and go breakfast for the older children, and making sure that there's, a huge reduction in school nurse visits related to hunger. And our very last, well, we have so many silver linings, but the one I'm going to talk about today, right, is when we had to also adapt and pivot because we were in the middle of the New Hampshire School Breakfast Challenge. And all of a sudden, our school food service directors were completely overwhelmed and did not have the time or ability to participate in a school breakfast challenge, right? They're just figuring out how are they going to find kids? How are they going to keep workers making food for children? There were a lot of challenges they faced. So we were able to use that time to create a toolkit. And now this toolkit will be posted on our website for school food service directors and school administrators to use to improve school breakfast participation in their school districts. So we're really excited about these silver linings and our ability to, end childhood hunger in New Hampshire. We have really good federal programs that are underutilized in our state. I will mention that we're number 47th out of all of the states for school breakfast participation.
Yeah.
So we hope that after this next upcoming year, because school meals are free again in school year 2021, 2022.
Great.
So, and kids will be in school in person with fingers crossed, right, that nothing changes. And we know that we are going to be able to move that number up and feed lots of children.
That is fantastic. Wow. I'm so humbled and honored to have been able to spend this time with all of you. I just want to bring it back to something that Patrice said so eloquently, health, happiness, and hope. And I want to add another H. I want to add honoring, because in many ways, the global nature and local nature of what you do honors all of those different things. And I want to say that New Hampshire Center for Nonprofits honors all of you and all the other nonprofits for incredible work that you are doing to make New Hampshire a great place that it is for everybody here and globally as well, Tim. I want to make sure that that's important in there. So thank you all so much for sharing your challenges and silver linings for this past, whatever time frame it was, and hopeful that we're going forward into better times ahead for everyone, which is becoming quite apparent through New Hampshire Gives, because we're just over $2.85 million, almost to 11,000 donors, which is fantastic. So thank you all so much for joining us today. Really appreciate everything that you do.